the next cutscene.
No, we didn't. It's all good.
Maybe you will amount to something after all.
Is that...
Is it? Oh,
not
maybe if you
affecting
hit
us.
menu, it'll...
No?
I don't know.
What? Do... Yeah.
It's not going away.
We need to get
Oh,
going
there we
soon.
go. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Do you guys want me to actually physically hold it?
Alright. So this is Spyro Year of the Dragon, any percent. Got there in the end. So the goal of this category is essentially just to beat the game as fast as possible. And that involves getting the eggs at the end of each of the main levels in each world, or at least the first 3 worlds.
So yeah, the first thing that hopefully we'll both get to show off here is what's called proxies. They are going to be more or less the main focus of this run. So I've got a small one there. You sort of get the idea of it. You can get ones that are, yeah, so like that. Go straight to the end of the level. Save a bunch of time from not having to, you know, just run through and do everything. So essentially how that works is that the game has a mechanic where if you're charging through something, you can go through the hitbox of it. But if you're gliding, then it does, like, the game just tries to throw you out. And so if you charge through a dead body, and then for 1 frame you just tap X, the game tries to throw you out, but then because you go back to charging, you gain a whole bunch of momentum when it throws you out, and you get what you saw there on my screen and thrown up into the air.
Alright, so me and Parso do slightly different routes in this first world. I'll be going to a different level.
Yeah,
So-
it's worth pointing out that you don't actually need any eggs or gems in the run. You just happen to get eggs when you reach the end of the level. So if you didn't actually get eggs from the end of the level, you would actually be able to finish the game with 0 eggs and 0 gems.
Oh, so what I did there is a swim in there. Swim triggers don't, like, the water doesn't really exist. It's just swim triggers, and if you can activate them from out of bounds, like I did there, you can get swim in air. And Parso just did a jump to skip the whole of Cloud Spires.
Yeah, so a big theme in a lot of Spyro levels is, you know, they sort of end up being a big loop or a big U-shape to where the end of the level is within sight, but not reachable, or at least they attempted to make them not reachable. So that's where we sort of abuse a lot of game mechanics to just be able to, you know, skip having to go through that whole loop. So yeah, I'm doing what Dak did before as well. First part of that is doing a Superfly jump, where the Superfly power-up, you do a certain set of inputs and, you know, it essentially gives you a much larger jump. You get, it's similar to a proxy where you get a bunch of upward momentum and then you can get out of bounds. And swim planes in this game act exactly like that. They're not bodies of water. They're an actual plane that when you pass through, you get put into the swim state. And so if you can pass through a plane of water while you're out of bounds and stay out of bounds, you won't be kept inside the sort of boundaries they expected you to be in. And so you can just swim wherever you want to.
Yeah, so what Dak just did there is he wall glided off the side of Mushroom Speedway. And if you wall glide, like glide against the wall at a certain angle, you can actually gain height and make jumps that you're not supposed to. So by doing that, he gets on top of Molten Crater and is able to enter it from underneath. Because, well, it's also worth pointing out that levels that are normally locked by like eggs or something, you can find them underneath where they're supposed to be, like out of bounds. And that goes for every single level. So if you can get out of bounds, you can get into every level from underneath.
Yeah, there's lots of levels that are supposed to be unlocked by getting a certain number of eggs, but because we're getting basically no eggs, there's going to be lots of levels that we have to enter through unintended means. And so the pattern in this run tends to be like, do something fancy to skip into the level, and then do something fancy to skip through the level. And rinse, repeat. Nice, nice.
Yeah, that's both of them getting that first try. That's pretty difficult.
And
then-
I don't think we got the chance to mention it when Dact was in the level, but this is another proxy. It works a little differently in that it's not off a dead body, it's off an animation that the boar does.
Yeah, normally you can't actually be inside the body of the boar because it's like it's a bigger enemy. It's like a solid hitbox or something like that. So you actually do it off the animation of it running at you. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, it works the same way in that during that animation, the hitbox the hitbox changes, and so you glide over the top of it to where the hitbox is going to change to be, and then do the same thing where, you're inside it while charging. And then, yeah, by going back, or you're inside it while gliding, and then by charging immediately after, you get thrown up into the air.
Yeah, you'll see Dact going for the outer bouncer again for swim, but he won't be going left this time. He'll be going towards the side character, Sheila. And same thing, you just enter it from underneath, and you don't have to pay money bags a single time in the run.
Yeah, our routes have reconverged now, so there was a difference there, but they're back together now. And they're going to be the same for the rest of the run.
Thanks again.
So this is the first side character level. There's one of these in each homeworld. You get to play someone other than Spyro. Sheila's movement is basically walk and jump.
Yeah, Sheila is probably the first bit of RNG in the run, I believe. Basically, wherever these Rhinox are, it's pretty random. They can walk around wherever they feel like. And so it's a theme in the side character levels that you actually need to escort someone to the end. So you can't just skip to the end. You have to actually do an objective. And in this case, you have to kill all these guys.
Yeah, because it's the case in all these side character levels, the end of level character isn't standing at the end of the level from the start. Like, they start with you at the start of the level, and you need to guide them through before they can give you the egg. So that's where you can't just, run to the end and go say hello to the end of level.
Yeah.
You need to actually get them to the end of the level.
Yeah, so that's the homeward finish for both of them. We're going to be coming up on the first boss here. Boss.
Let's head on
with
home.
Buzz. Well, you also notice that two of the guys aren't there because they're supposed to be sitting outside their level telling you that you don't have enough eggs, so they don't actually come to the balloon. So there's only two guys
Listen
there of the 5
carefully,
people
you-
you saved. And this will be Buzz coming up on Dac's screen.
When I heard
It's a pretty broken fight. The first thing he's going to do is stand right at the edge. If you stand at the very edge, Buzz is supposed to go after you and he crushes you, but since you're right at the edge, he just stops immediately. And from the second onward, every time you push him in, he comes out, he'll bring up a wall of flame, and you're supposed to be able to not let it hit him for 3 seconds. But the idea is that you turn the camera away, you don't look at him, and he hits the wall. So you just actually push him into the fire like this, and it turns like probably like a minute and a half fight, like or something like that.
Yeah, there's a very, consistent trend through these games where if something isn't on screen, it's not happening. And so that's what we're doing with the camera manipulation, is putting Buzz off screen so that, he doesn't trigger that firewall Nerf was mentioning.
Yeah, it's similar to the Crash Bandicoot Nitros from the run earlier today. Yeah, this will be Dact entering the second homeworld now, and there's a mandatory cutscene here. It's at the start of every homeworld. You have to talk to Bianca here. But directly
Okay,
after this, he's gonna go left and come under the bridge here. And he wants to do 2 full high jumps into this, and hopefully swim out of bounds through the bridge. Okay, second try, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So he's going to be going to the second side character now, Bird. Same deal. You don't have to pay for him, you just enter from underneath.
Yeah, bridge swim can be really finicky, but can make it reasonably consistent. Yeah. And then another side character area. I thought there was going to be a text box there. So the fastest movement with Bird involves holding both strafe buttons. It locks your direction and it also makes you fly faster. So Makes it both faster and easier to control. Yeah.
That's not an uncommon thing. I don't know if anyone knows that, but his shot actually, the rocket went through the door. That just happens sometimes.
Sir, the right.
So there's some small optimizations I'm going to be going for here. That camera's actually in the way. But if you kill those enemies that you saw I killed there, and then kill this other one here, this hummingbird has checkpoints through this level, and for some of them you need to either kill enemies or wait for the hummingbird to actually get to a spot before you move on. And if you're too fast, it won't follow you. But the nice thing about killing those enemies is that as soon as you come here, she's already sitting in that spot, so you don't have to wait for her to get to the checkpoint, which ends up saving, I think it's something like a second.
Yeah, all the side areas work like that for the escorts. They're basically just segmented into checkpoints, and those checkpoints are tied to enemy kills. So you only need to kill like very specific enemies, and the escort will just run past the other ones. So what Dactly is doing, he's actually going up on top of the spooky swamp portal, but since he doesn't have enough eggs, he can actually just stand inside the little rim of it. And then he uses that to jump on the bridge, and then you can jump through the scenery there because it's not solid, because you're not supposed to be there. And yeah, just another deal. Go through the level from underneath. You'll be going for Croc here.
Yeah, not quite.
That was a decent proxy, but for this level, you actually need a really big one to skip right to the end. Let's see if Parso gets it. No.
You are.
So I'll go for a second try here.
Oh,
Nice, so get to show that off at least. Like Nerf said, you do need to get a pretty decent one to actually get to the end here from the start of the level.
And then the little thing here where the egg spawns underneath you, that just happens if you look away from the end of level guy when you talk to him.
So an interesting thing to note about this homeworld is the order we're doing the levels in is very purposeful, because we need to have that cutscene that just play when we come out of Spooky Swamp. Otherwise, there's a very long gliding animation where you sort of very slowly come out of that portal.
Yeah, that happens in every level, but specifically for Spooky Swamp, it's by far the longest.
Yeah, because you're very high up, the glide ends up just taking a very long time.
So hopefully Dak will be getting bolder here. Nice. Yeah, the idea is that you get between the gap and they push the boulder towards you, and since
Hell yeah.
you're not big enough to be able to fit in there, and so the game's just throwing you out. So it's called a squeeze proxy. I think the analogy that's been used at GDQ runs is like if you squeeze the bar of soap and it just slips out of your hand. It's basically as simple as that.
So I actually got a really nice trick there. So there's a small fodder at the start of the level that you can get a proxy off. It's quite hard, and then you do what you would have seen. I was sort of charging and gliding intermittently along a wall. That's what's called Spyro-manning. So it's, you know, Spider-Man but with Spyro. So that allows you to skip to the end of level, and I think it saves something like 12 seconds over doing Boulder Proxy.
Yeah. So here you're supposed to talk to Hunter for a little green rock to shoot in, but you can just take the fireball power up. And while the fireball power is in midair, you just glide towards the portal, and the moment it opens, you're inside. It's a couple seconds time save. Now hopefully here they'll just be doing this jump, which may look intended, but I just don't think the developers realized that jumping was better than they intended. Yeah. Dact actually didn't do the jump, he failed it, so he went for the proxy backup, and he got a pretty good run. Went really high.
Oh, loud noise warning, by the way.
Oh, this is loud.
Oops.
Yeah, for some reason that sound effect of the statue exploding is just really loud. No idea why. Okay. So next level is one that can...
Very notorious.
Yeah,
for...
it shouldn't be a problem, but it's well known for killing, especially marathon runs.
Yeah, the whole trick of the level here is just one jump, but it's a very long jump and it's difficult. There's a couple of mechanics in this game that actually make it harder than it really should be. If you try jump too close to a wall, you'll just flop off the edge and you don't even get to jump. if you leave your jump too late to try and optimize it, it'll get cut in half for the height. And if you just simply do it like too far left, you just won't have enough height. So you need to be in a very specific spot, and obviously to do it fast, you want to set up quickly.
I hovered too early.
Yeah, both of them doing
late.
early hovers there. That's pretty unfortunate. Zach's one looks good. Yeah. Oh, no.
Both of those jumps are completely fine, but the timing on the hover is a little bit unintuitive.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's not, you know, this trick comes entirely down to like your own skill, but so it's not as frustrating as, you know, proxies and stuff like that, but because of it, like, it is very precise, you need a good jump and a good hover, and so any small part of that going wrong ends up, you just miss the trick, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you'll be seeing the first version difference here. Parso's playing on a version called 1.1, and Dact is playing on 1.0. The cutscene you saw on Parso's stream won't be in Dact's run, because for some reason they just didn't put it in there.
Yeah.
So that saves a little bit of time.
It saves about 6 seconds here, but then Parso will save some back later because the spawn position at the end of the spike fight is different, and the one on 1.1 is a bit faster.
It's worth pointing out that this fight won't look like how it's intended to be. Because you've missed so many collectibles in the run at this point, the game thinks you're just really terrible. And so you need 3 less damage to beat this fight on any percent. In the other categories you need to do 9 damage, but this one is just 6.
Yeah, somehow this game came out in the year 2000, but it has adaptive difficulty.
Yeah, you'll see the difference in export points. Parso's one spawns straight in the center, and he doesn't have any control over his movement. He just walks towards it because of the game board. But Dact will spawn at the side, and he will have a chance to glide towards the whirligig. Yeah. It cuts off your movement pretty quickly, so you have to be quick about it.
So yeah, this homeworld as well, we'll see some more of those movement differences. To save on sort of, memory of the game, there are a lot of walls that are visually there, but they don't actually have any collision coded in. So you'll see here, I come up here, jump off, and go over here, and I just hover straight out of bounds.
Away went out of bounds there. You have to do a big jump and hover.
The funny part is, in the later version, they actually realized you could do that, so they made it a tiny bit higher, but it still wasn't high enough, so you can still just out of bounds the same way.
So yeah, you can see Dact goes to a different spot. He doesn't have to jump off. Yeah.
And so this is the last side area you see. There's 4 in the game, but every level on Midnight Mountain is irrelevant. You don't need to do any of them. And Bentley is not really too interesting. You just walk forward, you kill stuff. That's about it.
Yeah, there's some optimization here with the cycles on the seals later in the level. Those cycles only progress while your camera's facing them.
Right. So you basically wanna know what their animation looks like when they're about to throw it, and then look away.
If you use
So I didn't have a great first seal, but yeah, the second 2 are pretty easy to optimize. Again, it's that same mechanic of if it's not on camera, it's not happening.
I didn't see how many lives I have.
Yeah, I think I might grab this life to give Firefly a better shot. So, this is something in the game called the skill points. You can push that thing off the edge, and it's some hidden thing, and I'm very skillful in pushing boxes off edges, so they give me a life for it.
Quickly interrupt. We do have a donation. $50 from Andrew. Says, good luck in the race, Dact. And the donation is going to the Mario Sunshine. Okay.
I think that's my brother, so hi.
thanks, bro.
So yeah, not much interesting going on in Bentley. It's very, as Nerf is saying, straightforward.
Yeah.
And there's movement tech that, every side character has movement tech, But the movement tech that Bentley has is like, you know, frame perfect inputs all like constantly, so it's just not viable RTA.
Tool assisted stuff to make him go faster.
Yeah.
So this proxy is pretty important that Pass is about to go for.
Nice.
Nice.
So luckily that proxy is pretty easy.
It's still a dead body proxy like the rest of them. It's just a little different because you wait for him to land on the ground and then he doesn't despawn immediately. You just jump into him as he's like lying there dead.
So I got a slightly smaller one, so I had to go a different route. But
Thanks for helping
you really
out.
don't need much at all.
No, I think it's something like 5 seconds. As long as you get that proxy, it's the important thing because the level is actually very slow if you don't manage to get that proxy. So we're going to do another out of bounds here. Again, like the same thing because we don't have any eggs, all the portals are locked, so...
Yeah. This will arguably be one of the hardest tricks in the run, depending on your preference between this or Charmed Ridge. But for most people, this will be the hardest trick in the run. I imagine they'll try for it a few times, but if they don't do it, they'll just have to go around the intended way.
I'm only going once, so I've only got 2 lives.
So hopefully he'll get a first try.
Yeah.
Try once more.
You don't actually want to death abuse too much here because if you fail tricks in the other levels, you pretty much die. You don't really have a choice. Yeah. Neither of them have any luck, unfortunately.
Yeah, because... So, when I mentioned that Mammoth was easy, it's because the Mammoth hitbox is, like, super big, and so it's very lenient on where you can actually be in the hitbox and still get a proxy out of it. So, understandably, with these tiny little fireflies that move around in a somewhat random fashion, it's quite tricky to actually, you know, make them move in the direction you want to, and then you have to do some very precise, delicate inputs to actually get the proxy out of them.
Yeah. You basically want to do the same movement every time, but any variation, it can make it move in a different direction. And it doesn't help that sometimes when you spawn to level, it just doesn't move, and you pretty much have no choice. You have to die again, and it's like a 10-second time loss.
Damn, this is really close.
Somehow they've still managed to stay very even.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a unique cutscene. There's an intermission cutscene between like every couple levels for the first 2 home worlds, but for this one, it's just in game. There's no actual like rendered cutscene, so you can just skip it straight away.
Yeah, it's something about Hunter not being the brightest and stepping on a button and getting thrown into a cage. So you'll notice in this level, Dact and I are both taking damage intermittently as we move through the level. This is sort of Spyro's version of one of the escort ones. You saw the guy that talked to us at the very start. We need to get him to the end.
Yeah, there is a way at the start to speed this up. It saves a decent amount. I think depending on how much sparks you have, it saves like 5 or 7 seconds, anywhere in between. But I don't think either of these two are too like
I'm reasonably consistent at it, but it takes an extra life. Like, you have to death abuse again.
Right,
I
yeah.
don't want to risk game overing in a marathon run.
Yeah, and his lives are running very low right now. So they'll be doing a trick here where they want to pause on the same frame that they die and they'll leave the level. And the effects of it are mostly negative, but the one thing we do want is when, well, you see Dact here, when he comes out of the level, he'll be able to swim straight through the water, like it doesn't even recognize him. And so you can just use that, because the game thinks you're dead already, you can't be affected by swim states. So you use that, and you just get out of bounds and go like that. It's the only time zombie is used in the run.
Yeah, it's very nice because, you know, if that zombie, like, or if that trick wasn't possible, this run would be almost, like, impossible to actually do because of that portal's position. You can't just glide into it from out of bounds, and while there is a swim in air in this homeworld, it's very, very difficult and so isn't really viable.
You'll see Dact got the proxy there. It's another pretty hard one. Well, depending on your consistency, it's either really easy or really hard.
I don't reckon it's too bad. It's a lot of pressure in a good run.
Yeah.
Because you basically have to get it. But
It's not uncommon for people to get their timing slightly wrong and get sent far forward instead of up. And in this case, if you get sent forward, you get sent straight into the void down there.
It's also worth pointing out that the cutscene at the end of that level removed zombie, so I'm not in the zombie state.
Yeah.
Normally you'd have to death abuse to do that, but
Yeah.
certain cutscenes do it as well.
So, what Dac's coming up to now is the most major component of RNG in the game.
Yeah.
This boss can do several attacks, as well as the side character that gives you ammunition. There are two types of ammunition. One is a green rocket that homes in that you get 1 ammo of, and the other is a red rocket that you get 50 ammo of. But they both do the same damage. So if you get green, you can only hit him once, whereas if you get red, you can do what Dac's doing here and just keep him locked in the same spot.
So you got red rockets first.
Yeah.
That's pretty fortunate. I think
Trying not to die
the
though.
current record holder of this category has lost like countless numbers of runs to this boss because it just doesn't give them the right weapons.
No!
And yeah, some of the enemy spawns here, if you jump above them, you can actually like explode them without taking any damage. But unfortunately, that got hit there by one of the weevils.
That's so that was going to be a really good fight as well.
Yeah, as we
Thankfully I got
mentioned,
reds
he's got-
again straight away, but like...
Yeah. Luckily, they're both in really good weapon luck.
Yeah. So, like you can see here, for me, I'm actually getting incredible luck in this fight. He's got those fireball attacks, which are the fastest, and you want them. He's also got, you know, the enemies that you can see being spat out at Dact here. There are 4 different kinds of enemies. These gophers, crabs, the sun things, which are the worst, and then you can also get a buzz spawn in this fight.
It's
which is
basically a one hit kill version of the first boss.
Yeah.
I got absolutely atrocious RNG on the second fight there.
So yeah, that's a common theme of races. The lead will be thrown back and forth because people get screwed over by various different things. And so now, Parso is coming up on the final trick in the run here. He'll be trying to wedge himself in between the helmet there. It's a little difficult to see on stream, but he'll use that, it'll send him backwards, and he'll turn at the right times to be able to go up the wall here. And he'll do a series of jumps, and the trigger into the final boss is right behind that mountain. So he's in the final fight now.
Yeah, so that's the trick that allows us to completely skip, well, first of all, skip the egg requirement to get into the final boss, but as well skip every single level in the final homeworld. So this final fight has 3 phases. There's a bunch of vehicles that they were like, oh, we put all these cool vehicles in our game. You get to use them all now.
Yeah, this fight is notorious for being slightly difficult and slightly hard. You know, just very slightly.
Slightly random.
And it's right at the end of the run. It's a very frustrating and hard boss to have right at the end.
There's also some RNG elements, so you can see Agent 9 here shoots down like the weapons that you need to use to hit the sorceress, and sometimes you can get him to drop down weapons that aren't for the current phase you're in. So like I said, there's 3 different phases. You have cannon, you have tank, which I'm on now, and UFO. But if you're lucky, you can get him to shoot down a tank for the UFO phase.
Yeah. Normally you're supposed to do 2 damage with a cannon, 4 with a tank, and then 6 with the UFO. But during that crossover, if he happens to shoot something down, you get to keep it. Otherwise, they will all just despawn. You'll get the next set of things. Luckily, the first 2 weapons you get are good. Like you want to be using them because they're easy to hit, they're fast. But the UFO is very finicky.
Coming up on time, by the way.
Yeah. The UFO is very finicky. It's 3D. You need to turn around, and it's a bit hard to shoot. Time.
Oh, and I'm on green as well. Damn, these bosses.
So yeah, that's why you want to, I'm sure Dact would have on the way to Sorceress, you want to kill some fodder, because if you're on 2 low sparks in this fight, Agent 9 will take the time to shoot down sheep instead of shooting down, yeah, weapons for you to hit Sorceress with. GG.
Nice.
Right, so that was Spyro 3 90%.
I don't know what that is.
Nice capture.
Yes, stick around for more runs.
Oh, they just got the capture working after the race.